So in these problems, we're asked to find the domain of a square root function. We have some basic ones and some more advanced ones. And what you need to know is that the inside of the square root cannot be negative, at least not in real numbers, which is what we're going to be using in these functions. So you cannot allow the inside of the square root to be negative. Okay, so let's take a look at this first one. The only thing underneath the square root here is x. Okay, so what we do to find the domain of g of x here is we set the inside greater or equal to 0, and then you solve for x. Okay, so this one is already solved for x for us. So we can say that our domain is all numbers that are greater or equal to 0. In interval notation, that's going to look like this: bracket, because of the equal to sign, 0, comma, and it goes all the way out to infinity. Okay, so that's your answer in interval notation. Alright, so that is the domain. Okay, so the domain of this one, we would set the inside greater than or equal to 0, so x minus 2 greater or equal to 0. We need to solve this for x, so we add the 2, and that will give us x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so that tells us that x is bigger than everything bigger than 2. So we write bracket 2, because that's where it starts, and we move off to positive numbers because it's bigger than 2 with a parentheses on infinity because you can't reach infinity. Alright, let's look at this one. 4x plus 12 on the inside of the square root. So 4x plus 12 greater than or equal to 0. Subtract the 12. So we get 4x is greater than or equal to negative 12. Divide the 4. And that's a positive number that we're dividing by, so we do not need to flip the inequality. Okay, so this becomes x is greater than or equal to, and that is negative 3. So all numbers greater than or equal to 3. So we would use a bracket and a negative 3, and then it goes all numbers bigger than that, so infinity parentheses. That's the domain. Okay, let's look at this one down here. 6 minus x is underneath the square root, so we set 6 minus x greater than or equal to 0. We subtract the 6 from both sides, so we get negative x is greater than or equal to negative 6. We divide by negative 1, and since we're dividing by a negative, anytime you divide or multiply by a negative number when you have an inequality, you flip the direction of the inequality. So this becomes x is less than or equal to, and then let's see, negative 6 divided by negative 1 is 6. So your domain is all numbers that are less than or equal to 6. So your domain starts at negative infinity and stops at 6 with a bracket. Okay, so all numbers that are less than 6, so that's the reason the negative infinity is here. Okay, this one has x plus 5 inside the square root, so it's a pretty easy one. Subtract, so you get x is greater than or equal to negative 5. Okay, so that means we will have a bracket, a negative 5 to infinity. That's the domain. Okay, and the last one, we've got negative 9x plus 36. So to find the domain of this, we set negative 9x plus 36 greater than or equal to 0. And subtract the 36 from both sides. 0 minus 36 is negative 36. So negative 9x is greater than or equal to negative 36. Divide by negative 9. And since we're dividing by a negative number, I'm going to flip the inequality. So it's x is less than or equal to, and this is 4. Okay, so all numbers less than or equal to 4, which means negative infinity is the first thing we're going to write with a parentheses, comma, 4 with a bracket. And that is your domain.